Hello, everyone. Hope all is going well. I just wanted to quickly go over how you can go back to working in more of a legacy mode with your macro controls if you want to do that. This has probably been available since version 2, and I was just too stupid to see it. But if you remember in version 2, Bitwig introduced remote controls and introduced this sort of a modulation scheme. Before, if you had an LFO, you would put that first and you would nestle any devices that you would potentially want to send that LFO to, or modulate with, I should say. And then we also had the remote controls, which go the entire distance of whatever that control is inside of the instrument. Now, if you wanted to use macros, you could still do that by going into this section here. But I found, and this is just a personal thing, there are so many tabs you can now open up that it all starts to become a little bit overwhelming. And I really like that old 8 macro kind of scheme from the top level if you wanted to work with that. And guess what? You can still do that inside of Bitwig Studio version 2. I just never really realized it. So I'm going to show you how to do that here quickly. And then towards the end, I'll just talk about maybe why that's useful. And I think I already kind of got to it. But if I go in here and I add a new page, you'll see that I have these 8 different slots. From here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add my macros. And I can use a macro 4, or I could just use a macro individual, either way. And I just have to open this up. And now I can send these right to these macro knobs. The one thing I can't do is right click in here and adjust this to go bipolar. I would still have to do that inside of the modulation area, but that's fine. The benefit of this is that, let's say there's like tons and tons of modulators going on, boop, I can close that down and I can still send things wherever. So I could send that there, you know, how we're used to working with modulators. Bing, bang, boom. We have a modulator here. We have a macro control, and I can set that up as complex or as simple as I want, and I can still go in and rename them as I normally would, like oscillator 1 fun, or FYB. Well, actually, we'll say fun. All right. And then on the bottom, let's say I still have these 4. Normally, I was never using more than 4 macros at a time. I could still go in here and, for example, go with my traditional remote controls for other parameters that I normally would adjust inside of this particular synthesizer. This becomes really useful when you have really long effects chains, instrument layers, or synthesizers where there are a lot of controls and a lot of things you would consider modulating or changing. And don't forget that I can still go in here and I can use an LFO to say route what's going on from this distance, from this area out here, or I could go in and I could still do it in here. But to me, this just works easier. It's like one less click to have to deal with. This is always something that I wish I had known from the very beginning, because personally, this is the way that I prefer to work. It may not be the way you prefer to work, but I thought I would share it with you nonetheless. Last thing I should point out is, like, let's say you know that you're always going to want a page that has 4 macros from the remote control level. You can just go in, right click, and you can save this as a default preset. Preferably don't have any modulation going on, because that's all going to save and carry over, which you're not going to want. So go back out, start from scratch, add your macros in here, save it as a default preset, and then you'll be able to flip to that page. And there you go, working with macros like you would in earlier versions of Bitwig Studio. Thanks a lot. Take care.